What we're looking to do here is just get good public input on how we should proceed on this project. And I'll say it, the islands on West Water Street aren't everybody's favorite feature. They have their issues. They do slow down traffic, but they create other issues. So we want to get that kind of feedback from you, good constructive feedback that we can work with to make this an even better project. And that is our goal, is to make downtown a destination for everyone. And by everyone, I mean pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles, because we all are pedestrians every day. We walk to our car in the morning, we walk from our car to our workplace or our shopping center. So it's important that we take account of pedestrians and cyclists that are trying to move through our transportation system. So thank you. Again, I appreciate you being here. Once the meeting's over, we will be sticking around to answer any questions. And I will turn it over to Paul to go over our presentation. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, so like Andy said, we're gonna, this is intended to be just an introductory, thing by me, and then an open house afterwards. We aren't really gonna do question and answer, except like at the tables, looking at everything, and then, definitely ask myself or Andy or anybody else a question. That's late plan, sorry about that. Okay, so I'll kind of tell you where we are in the process. Right now, we're doing what's called a draft design report. So this is, whenever there's federal funding involved, and New York State DOT oversight, this is what the process that we have to go through. It includes the public information piece, which is what we're doing now, getting input from the community, as well as doing all the environmental things we have to do, identify if there's any right of way that needs to be taken, look at all the different alternatives and kind of go forward from there. So right now we're obtaining feedback on the alternatives. We really want all your input. You're the ones that live and work there every day. So that's the input that we want. After that, we'll do what's called the final design report. We'll submit those preliminary designs. We have an alternative at that point, and we'll get that in front of the state and FHWA, get their approval. And then we can start generating plans for a contractor to bid on. And then we start, develop those contract documents and then begin construction after that. So what are our project objectives? What do we want to do as part of it? That's, a key part of that design report and that preliminary design is to improve the pedestrian facilities and improve the safety of pedestrian, bicycle, and motor vehicle traffic. Obviously, that's safety is a big thing with everything that we look at, and the city wants to do to make sure it's a safe corridor for everyone that uses it. Improve the condition of traffic control devices, signs, pavement markings. Again, that goes into the safety of it, how we want to protect that roadway for everyone, and make it more of a complete street for everyone that uses it. Improve the landscaping, aesthetics of the corridor, and to kind of continue that community identity we have from West Water Street, from the cultural connector on Main Street. So all those different projects kind of make it a cohesive, all the cohesive look throughout the city. And then provide a pavement service, obviously, that increases the service life and rideability of East Water. Over the years, it just gets to a point where you can't just do Band-Aids to the road anymore. You really have to do a full depth. So we're looking at what the different options are for the pavement, but we definitely want to make it long lasting, kind of get in and get out and not have to go back there for a while, other than just routine maintenance type activities. So there's a project brochure. I don't know if everybody's grabbed it, but I invite you to grab those. I'll admit, as much quality control as we have, sometimes there's some gaps, and we did see that there's Lake Ave there instead of Lake Street, so I apologize for that. But there's a lot of good information, kind of information I'm presenting, questions you can ask later. But a lot of the facts of the project are included, as well as the 3 different alternatives that we're looking at. Also, there's a public comment sheet and a sign in. We'd like to get a record of everybody that's here, just so we can reach out in the future if there's, other project communication that we'd like to get out, even during construction or as we lead up to construction, kind of give some updates of what's going on. And then as far as a comment sheet, we'll take comments anyway. If you want to just give them verbally, as part of the open house later, or on a comment sheet that you can leave here today, or mail in, or email myself or Andy or whoever. We're definitely, that'll be part of that public record and part of that design report. So looking at it, we kind of looked at different segments because Clemens to Lake, that section is kind of the same for all three alternatives. So, kind of its existing corridor. Looking at it from an aerial view, that's kind of how we have the drawings presented in the back. And I'm going to kind of go back and forth a little bit to show this is kind of what our proposed alternative looks like. So you can kind of see what we did add in along, most of the section, anywhere there's sidewalk. We did add that, that stamped concrete look or a kind of an offset in that snow storage area. And that does provide just some aesthetics, but also to kind of provide that buffer area between the sidewalk and the curbing. Also provides an opportunity for landscaping, in some areas, as needed or as desired, I should say. Then also, if you look, we do include a bump out in some locations. What that does is reduce that distance that people have to cross the road. It makes it quite a bit safer from that perspective. Also, it puts people out past where the vehicles are parked, so you can see kind of which way, have a lot more visibility. It also slows traffic down as that road narrows. It's just intuitive to drivers that they slow down a little bit, so it does have that traffic calming effect. So, and all these, there's all curb ramps in there to make it accessible with ADA and accessible to, anyone with disabilities. You will see that we did add some sidewalk space on the north side of the road. And that's, we gained that basically by moving the parking in this one area, but we did compensate for that by adding back in parking as you get closer to Lake Street. So the second section from Lake Street to Madison, you can kind of see this area is pretty open, a lot of pavement, a lot of asphalt, a lot of concrete. So there's a desire to kind of make it a little bit more of a gateway into the city. And looking at it as in plan, you can kind of see this will kind of be important as we move on. There's lots of kind of offsite parking through this section, and really looking at it, there isn't too much parking that happens on the street through that area as well. So we looked at three different alternatives, basically two general alternatives and then a sub alternative. But the first one had islands that would kind of match what was done on West Water Street, or kind of consistent with what was done on West Water Street. The one difference is, through this section, there's a lot of driveways. So some of these areas, the lighter pink you can see in here, those would be flush. And then the other ones would be full height. They could contain some landscaping in them, but would also be a barrier to anybody that wants to turn left in and out of those driveways. So the thought was to put a flush island in that area so that people could traverse over it. But it's also kind of a visual barrier that's not really where you want to drive, but you can go over it to get to these driveways. You can also see some bump outs too on Lake Street. This alternative has what's called a shared use lane. So it's basically a 14-foot wide travel lane, which accommodates both vehicles and bicyclists. So now it also has the same that same look of that stamped concrete in the snow storage area, where in this case we've add a lot of vegetation. Basically that area, if you look, kind of look at those pictures, you kind of see there isn't a whole lot that defines that corridor, the street versus the parking areas. So the thought is to, what that landscaping can do as it builds up, it does create that canopy over the roadway. It's another traffic calming device to help slow down traffic, make it more inviting and appealing. So the second alternative is just basically a very similar thing, but without the island. But we would add a dedicated bike lane in this scenario, all the way between Lake and Madison through that section. It's a 5-foot wide bike lane that's adjacent to the curbway, to the curb, in between the curb and the travel. In this case, the travel lane would just be a 12-foot wide, kind of a typical travel lane. So this sub-alternative 3 was kind of what we had developed first, was just, it doesn't have a dedicated, it has a shared use lane on that last section. As you approach Madison, you know, but it was a thought that you really just don't lose much with the sidewalk, but you gain a lot with adding that bicycle lane to that last section. So I mentioned we really want to continue that theme, you know, the same kind of stamped concrete, same kind of sidewalk amenities throughout the corridor, kind of give a consistent look, basically. As far as schedule of the project, in general, we've had scoping approval, so Urban Anthony was brought on board sometime in the fall. We started our preliminary design, looking at different alternatives. We anticipate, you know, this is part of that design approval, that preliminary design. We anticipate design approval sometime around June of this year. What that design approval does, it gives us kind of the go-ahead to start final design, start contract plans to get a contractor on board. We'd start construction about a year from now, basically, and then anticipated to be complete the end of next year, end of 2024. So that's really a, you know, just a basic kind of concept of what we have developed. Definitely want to open it up to questions and comments as you walk around the corridor. I'm not going to really take any questions now, but we really invite you to kind of get up, look at what we have, and then come approach us with any questions. Thank you.